Hello, this is Tea and Toast. That's Greg.
This is Tea and Toast. That is the other presenter.
I'm Jason. And today we're talking about the evolution of some 80s characters.
Catchy title, my friend.
Thanks. No, so what I'm getting at, Greg, well, you know, because it was actually your idea, is you may have seen recently a lot of news about a redevelopment of He-Man, again, for Netflix.
By the way, I apologise on behalf of both of us that we haven't been around for the last 2 weeks.
It's Greg's fault.
It is my fault. Moving house, got flooded, moved out, moved back in again.
Driving to Minor 3 times a week.
Which is 6 hours for us.
But anyway, that's beside the point. We're here now. And don't forget, at some point in September we're doing 7 days. We haven't promised when, but we are doing 7 days
Someone
straight.
called Paul Gilbert has been moaning that we didn't do 7 days.
7 days. It's the 5th of September, Paul.
What's the matter with you?
Anyway,
Yes.
the reason that we're doing this video is you've seen in the news recently that they are redeveloping He-Man.
Now, yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen the picture of it, then have a look, because we had a little tiff. You didn't like it. I think it looks quite good.
I don't think there is a picture of it.
There is.
The reason I don't like it is I like the people who are involved in it. However, what I'm basing it on
Going on deep here.
is the treatment that Netflix have given to She-Ra. I really don't like the style of animation, the manga-y type She-Ra.
I don't know what mangering means.
Well, look at She-Ra, Princess of Power. I'll put a picture in now. You can't see it, Greg, but I'll put a picture in now.
Well, how good's that helping me then?
But I hope...
Has it been on now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll just do some acting now.
Yeah.
Oh, mangering!
Not Mandarin, just manga.
Manga! I know what you mean now.
Anyway, I think that's the road they're going down with it. There are some big names involved in it, obviously. Kevin...
He's a big name, isn't he?
Kevin from Jay and Silent Bob 2. Him. And I'm pleased that he's involved because I think that he will try to be a bit more true to the storyline.
Yeah.
Because he is like a massive Superman fan and all that kind of stuff.
Is he?
Yeah, he was involved in the development of a Superman film that didn't happen. You can see all that on YouTube. But yeah, the people involved excite me, but I just don't like the road that it's going down. So anyway, for that reason... So we thought we'd talk about the evolution of some 80s characters from the 80s.
Well, yeah. That's in the title, that's why.
Starting with He-Man. Let's have a look how He-Man started. I think we should do a podcast on this, Greg, because it's a whole big subject that we haven't got time to talk about today.
Apologies that we haven't done another podcast.
Yeah.
It's just that I've been moving house, moving out, moving back in again.
We'll be doing another one of them soon, so we will. Anyway, He-Man was first developed in the 1970s by Mattel, based on sort of Conan the Barbarian figures. They wanted to come up with a figure line like that. And people called Roger Sweet, Mark Taylor and Donald F. Galt were involved in the initial development of it, and they took some characters that they already had and modelled them to make prototypes of the He-Man figures. And anyway, to cut a long story short, they were first released in 1981. That was the first...
Is it that long ago?
Well, that was the first time the figures were released. They weren't massive at that point. Obviously, they didn't have the car. Yeah, they were the same size. Right. Didn't have the cartoon or anything, but there's a story that one of the salespeople was pitching the toys, and he said, "Oh, they need a backstory. How are we going to tell kids what their story is?" And he said, "Each one will have a comic," and he just came up with it in a meeting. So then I had to go back and develop these comics. If you remember, each character came with a little mini comic in a packet. So that was the first sort of reiteration of figures. The second wave of action figures came in 1983, and that's when you started to get some of the baddies like Manny Faces, Trapjaw, Ram Man. Remember all these characters, Greg? Triclops, Faker, the evil reboot of Skeletor, Evelyn, and all of those. Had 7 new mini comics as well. DC Comics featured He-Man in the early 80s too, but it wasn't until 1983 that Filmation created the animated series of He-Man.
Now we're talking.
This is the one we all remember, with a theme tune that we can't play because we'll get flagged.
But we can do this. Oh, it's Blockbusters.
Try again. No, that's Police Academy. He-Man. The day I held aloft my magic sword and said,
Talking about your
by the
loft again.
powers of Grayskull. While we're talking about the sword, going to blow your mind now. There'll be people out there who say, I knew this.
He told me this in rehearsal. Unbelievable.
He-Man's sword and Skeletor's sword are two parts of the same sword. And in the early stories of He-Man, Skeletor would try to get He-Man's sword so that he could reunite it with his half of the sword to make the power sword. And if you get the figures, their two swords clip together like one sword.
Unbelievable.
I never knew. All the time I played with them as a kid, never clipped those together.
I was playing with them last week. I never saw them. The way you could do that.
Anyway, as we're cutting a long story short, that was the big, huge era of He-Man. The one we all remember and love, the Filmation series that we all watched after school or on a Saturday morning.
Can I just say as well, it never made any sense, did it?
No.
None of it was any... I mean, you try and watch them now. What on earth is going on there? I mean, I genuinely have no idea what's going on. And then he does this moral of the story at the end of it, which has nothing to do with what they were talking in the story.
But Orko always says, the moral of the story today is that you should always be kind to your friends. And then they all go,
Yeah, but they don't do it with Skeletor, do they?
No.
So, see, not quite backing up their own...
Anyway, by 1985, Masters of the Universe was at its peak, really popular, probably the most popular toy line in the 80s. The Filmation TV series was really popular. The trouble is, only boys were watching it, and so they decided they wanted something to interest the girls, and they introduced She-Ra, Princess of Power, Adam's long-lost sister.
Yeah.
And they introduced a whole load more figures for those, which then I kind of got confused with which were the She-Ra figures and which were the He-Man figures. Not the girl ones, but like the Evil Horde. He was originally the baddie in She-Ra Princess of Power, wasn't he? But all became part of the same universe. Used to play with them. Anyway, by 1987, He-Man was that popular. Well, 1986. They decided they wanted to make a movie of He-Man. And who did they get to do it?
Well, they didn't really call it He-Man, did they?
No, Master of the Universe. And who did they get to make the film? Cannon.
Adrian!
No, not Sylvester Stallone, Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, yeah.
Cannon Films made Masters of the Universe, and as we've discussed many times before, and we probably will discuss again in depth in a podcast, the film ran into all sorts of problems. By that time, 1987, He-Man's popularity suddenly went off a cliff, didn't it?
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Do you think it's because, I was just thinking, do you think it's because, you know, like for instance, we were so into it, but we all grew up and we got a little bit older. So that group just suddenly grew out of it.
Perhaps.
It's interesting, isn't it?
So, yeah, Dolph Lundgren was brought on to play He-Man. A little anecdote about that is that he had to have 2 or 3 tries to dub his voice over before they would accept it. They were going to replace his voice with somebody else, but he eventually got it to where they wanted it to. They ran out of money, all of the stuff we've talked about before, and it was just a disaster.
How incredible is it? They spent so much time on worried about the voice, and yet they had no sets.
Yeah, and they didn't even have an ending for the film. But anyway, we've talked about that before, maybe talk about it again. But it was a disaster. It didn't really follow the cartoon storyline, introduced new characters that just weren't popular, didn't use old characters that were popular, like
and
Orko. Where was Orko? Replaced by Gwildor.
It was real.
Yeah.
That's the other big problem for us kids.
Actually, with my nostalgia glasses on, love to watch Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I do. Absolutely.
Because it takes me back to those days.
Yeah.
But it's not a great film in terms of being related to the
But I do think, as a kid, I think you were disappointed that it was real action and not cartoon. I think that was one of the problems, personally.
So the final action figures were released between 1986 and 1988. It was the film that kind of finished it off, really, I think, or finished the popularity of that. They did propose to make another series called The Powers of Grayskull, which was going to be sort of a prequel and discover how Eternia became and all that, but it never really happened. So then we move on in time, past the live action film, to 1990, when they introduced the new adventures of He-Man.
This is a disgrace.
Let's just say it never quite reached the heights of popularity that the original He-Man.
It's horrendous. I mean, I was young enough to still be able to watch these things at the time, and it was atrocious. You can tell just by the look of He-Man now, it's all gone wrong.
By this time I was 14 or 15 and I had no interest in the new adventures of He-Man. I barely remember it, if I'm honest.
I do. I remember it, and I remember thinking, what have they done?
Anyway, it was a few years after the ending of the original, and it was called The New Adventures of He-Man. It was created by Jetlag Productions to promote Mattel's short-lived attempt to revive the toys with a new toy line.
It's always about the toys, isn't it?
And the new toy line was simply titled He-Man.
The logo changed, his clothes changed, he looked different. Oh, the sword was different. It was just horrible.
Was it set in space?
No, I think that's a different one, isn't it?
I don't know. But yeah, it was very short-lived. That toy line was short-lived, and the cartoon was short-lived. It didn't hit the spot with that generation of children.
I wonder if them toys are quite rare now. We should do some research.
Yes, let's. I mean, that's a moral that we should take for this whole thing that we do. We should do some research.
You mean before we do it?
Yeah. There were lots of commemorative releases of He-Man figures in the 90s and early noughties, and that continues throughout today. They've just brought out a new line of He-Man figures which look like the original, and the original packing, made by Super 7s, and they're only about 21, 22 quid each.
Have they?
Yeah. I'll show you later. They look really good.
They've done that with the wrestling figures, you know. Have you seen that? Well, you brought me the Ultimate Warrior one, didn't you?
Well, they're doing it with lots of things. Star Wars, all sorts of stuff.
Who?
Star Wars, Greg.
Never heard of it.
So He-Man and the Masters of the Universe was revived again in 2002 to 2004. And it was a reboot of the Masters of the Universe toy line and a new cartoon. Same characters, completely different style. Again, for me, probably too old by then anyway. Well, I was too old by then. But just didn't hit the spot, and didn't really hit the spot for a lot of people either. I've put a picture in of what it looked like. Greg, did you watch this one?
No. It is amazing though, isn't it? How it can be so successful and then it just nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That still amazes me.
That animated series had 39 episodes, and it premiered on Cartoon Network's Toon Army in 2002, and the final episode aired on January the 10th, 2004.
There you go. That'll be one of the problems.
What?
Well, over here in the UK, we only have, when we were growing up, we had 3 channels.
We did have 3 mainstream terrestrial channels, and then another one was introduced, Channel 4.
So there you go. In the 2000s, Sky was out.
There's so much to watch these days for kids, it's hard to gain a grip on the audience, I think.
That's it. Answered my own question.
And then it goes on to talk about the Super 7 figures that I've just mentioned. And now we're back here to where we are awaiting more news of the Netflix series. I hope it's going to be good. The people involved should make it good, but it's just the style of animation that I don't particularly like, but that's just my opinion.
I think it'll be good. I do. I'm holding out for a good... I mean, I won't be watching it. I'll just...
You're holding out for a hero?
Huh?
You just went, I'm holding out for.
We can't sing that either, can we?
No.
No, I think it'll be good. I'm fingers crossed.
We will see.
We'll do a review on it when it comes out.
We will, I'm
And
sure.
we'll probably say, you know that new He-Man series? What a load of shit. Oh look. This is a belter, this is, Jason.
Is it?
It really is. It's all about Star Wars as well, which I ain't got a clue about, so this probably isn't funny to me. Anyway, Jason. So my friend I've got others, you know.
Yeah, well, whatever.
My friend decided to get a face tattoo of her. My friend decided to get a face tattoo of her favourite Star Wars character. You should have seen the look on her face.
You see, you don't even get it, do you?
I ain't got a clue.
Luke Skywalker.
Who's that? Oh, as in Luke. I have a Luke. Oh, you have to be Northern, don't you? Because otherwise you don't get that. Basically.
The crocodile's boat has beaten London. My dozy crew haven't even begun. But I know how to set them off. I know they'll do anything for go, pop. Oh, yeah. Kellogg's Cocoa Pops taste magic. Even turns the milk chocolatey. So we'd rather have a bowl of Cocoa Pops.
Listen, you lot need protection against whiffy breath caused by smoking and drinking.
Drinking, Ron.
Eating garlic.
Garlic, Ron.
And what's more...
Moron.
You're going to need these. New Clarettes. Breath fresheners with Actisol to
Help neutralise nasty niffs. Because pongs get right up my nose.
So get rid of them with...
A chainsaw.
Clarettes. A lot nicer than having your head chopped off.
Yeah.
Clarettes, the breath freshener with Actisol.
Bad news, Greg. Well, good news for one person. Printer's broke.
I thought you just wanted to get to McDonald's quickly.
Oh, there is that as well. But
Oh,
no,
yeah.
the printer is genuinely broken, so we can't print out a standing on the wall of fame picture. So you'll get to stay out there for another week. I mean, it's been that long since we made an episode that I've forgotten his name.
David.
David!
Oh, we don't do that now anymore, do we? Because we don't like David.
Anyway.
Ruined my dreams.
Anyway, that's the end of the show, Greg. Don't forget, we will be back with 7 days of tea and toast at some point in
Oh, we
September.
are going to pack it all in, we are. All the old favourites are coming back. We've been in rehearsals this week for it. All the old favourites are coming back. I've just even threw in, we should bring back eBay Find of the Week. Ah! But remember we used to do it for under a $5? I think we need to do it under a $10 now, though, 'cause it's just too difficult.
What rehearsals?
Were you not there?
No.
Oh, we were all there. You can get the email.
Anyway, that's the end of the show. If you would like to appear on the Wall of Fame or would like to get in touch with us, send an email to tnt@totgoo.com. That's tnt@tot.com.
It doesn't have to be in capitals.
No, it does not.
And if you can send your own pictures in, that'd be great, because we haven't got to use the printer then.
We can't email their own pictures, can they, Greg?
Well, no, they can send them.
To where?
They could find somewhere near our house.
We don't have a PO box.
No, we should do.
They're too expensive
Well, let's do a crowdfunder then.
for a PO box.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Did you just let your hair back?
yes, I did. That's the end of the show. We will see you again next time on Tea and Toast.
You see, I thought this episode today, I actually thought, to sum it all up as a whole, I thought it was an absolute load of